Okay, and it says here that the program is live. Good afternoon, everybody. This is our new time. Let's see here. I need to take care of something real quick. I'll be right back. I can't go off camera because this thing is wide angle. There we go. Okay, it's great to be here this afternoon at our new time that should be convenient for more people to join in. Gosh, we've got 7 people. Come on in, introduce yourself, put your name in the chat window, and let's get this show on the road today. It's a beautiful day here in Kingsport. The temperature is a perfect 62, 31% relative humidity. Come on in. Let's talk about Linux today. Let's talk about computers. My goodness, we had 7 concurrent watchers there for a few minutes. Hey, you're back. Great to have you back. Kitten's rules. That's great. So how are you doing today? This is going to be our new time now, our new home time. Sunday afternoons at 3 Eastern Time. Oh yeah, that was a huge release this week about the new Steam Deck, the new Steam Box, and Marx is here. That was huge. A lot of people in the Linux community are excited because it's going to run on Linux. It's an Arch version of Linux that it's going to run on, and that people in the Linux community are thinking that this is going to jumpstart the Linux desktop. That was the plan. Let me go do something here real quick. I will be right back. Good. I see we have 4 people. Marks, bring some folks in here to chat with us. I'll be right back. Okay. And as I promised, I am right back. That is as right back as I can be. Whoa. Oh, we lost the focus. Okay, let's try this one more time to bring it back in focus. That didn't do it. That's still not working. There we go. How about that? Perfect focus. Sorry about that, everybody. Yeah, and then of course they're going to use a customized version of AMD graphics. Yeah. How's the audio today, Marks? Let's see if we can get that online here. And we can talk about that announcement while we're waiting for some folks to come in here. Well, actually, it was on YouTube. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. We'll bring this up online. We'll talk about it. So, Kitten Rules, how you been doing? Great to have you with us. While we're waiting for some other folks, we're going to talk about the Steam Deck announcement here. Okay. All right, here it is. So this little box here is going to be new. And they're going to have a new wireless game controller with a couple touch pads there, I reckon. And then this new little box is going to run SteamOS. which is actually going to be Linux. I understand it's going to be an Arch version of Linux with, of course, their custom and proprietary layer. But my understanding with the box here, it's going to be basically a small desktop computer, and you can actually also run Windows on it if you want to. Yeah, this new called the Steam machine. And here's a little detail. This is what got people excited. Okay, it's a small form factor PC. Okay, it's going to be an OS optimized for gaming. Okay. 4K gaming, discrete AMD desktop class CPU and GPU. Okay, and they're going to have two storage options. You know, keep it simple, keep your costs down. But if you see there in this photograph, those are actually desktops. That particular person featured in this photograph is not playing games. Those are actually on the right side. There's some coding going on. And it says it's a PC. It says you can install your own apps or even another operating system, which means Windows, of course. So it says early 2026, and some people are talking about that could mean anywhere from March to April of 2026 in the computer parlance. Okay, so we can kind of see there, that's there's an anticipated price. I think some people have speculated $850 probably for the 512 gigabyte. And you can expand the storage, but I expect the 512 gigabyte will sell for about $850. That's a predicted price. The prices haven't been announced yet. Let's get back and see who's here. Okay, who all's here today? Right. It's going to be their version, Steam's version of Arch. Exactly. That's what it's going to be. But you will be able to install Windows on it if you want to. So who else is here today? We got Marks and Kitten Rules. Well, Kitten's Rules, how are you doing? And give us an update. Gosh, we've got 5 concurrent watchers out there. Don't be shy. Come on in. Put your name in the chat window here. Introduce yourself. Ask a question or make a comment. You know, we don't always have to talk about Linux here. We can talk about Windows. We can talk about computers. We can talk about the weather if you want to. We can even talk about the NFL. Okay, so how long have you been a gamer? Hey, welcome there. I guess it's Neil Tropolis. Neil Tropolis, you're new here. Welcome. Okay, well, when you get done cooking, you can come on in and type here with us and join in on the chat. But thank you for joining today. Much appreciated. And thank you. I'm glad you found us. Well, we generally run here for about an hour to an hour and a half. So hopefully you'll be done cooking and then you can stop in and make a few comments. Okay, so you loved Fallout, Nevada. Oh, cooking for the dogs. All righty. I cook for a cat. and he's got to go to the vet this week, and he is not going to like that. Matter of fact, I need to get the kitty crate out of the basement and put it in the kitchen, so he'll get used to it for a day or so. Because if I put it in there at the last minute, he will get frightened. So I need to bring, as soon as this program is over, I need to go down to the basement and bring that kitty crate out and put it in the kitchen there. And that way he'll get, by the time tomorrow rolls around, it'll be second hat to him. You'll have to call the vet first thing in the morning about Tiger the cat. Well, gosh, you've got 8 concurrent watchers. So far, we're getting off to a great start here on Sunday. And I thought that Sunday would be a good time to move to from Thursday, because the channel here had built up a good base of subscribers who get a weekly notice. Marks, have you been getting a notice about the program? Some people said they're not getting a notice, and if you're a subscriber, you should be getting one about a day before, anywhere from 36 to 24 hours before the show. Hey, welcome there, Blazing H1. Well, I think that's a little misinformation. They're Blazing H1. Oh, you mean Wayland? Yeah, okay. Well, thank you, because I was about to say moving to Hyperland. Hyperland is already there. You're talking about Wayland. Wayland is where things are headed, and Wayland has some problems, and let me explain what they are. Wayland is not 100% complete yet. Wayland has been under development for 10 years. 10 years. Okay. And the thing is, there are still some things with Wayland that are being worked out. So what will happen is developers will have Plasma and the other desktop operating systems that are 100% Wayland ready. And then an upstream fix or an upstream change from Wayland will come down the pike, and then it messes things up, and then they've got to release some fixes. One of the things with Wayland right now is it will not let you, when you, on some desktop environments, this isn't all of them, but on some desktop environments that are 100% Wayland, every time you open up an application, it opens in the center of the screen. So you can't, like on X11, applications can remember where they were last opened. And so when you open up the applications, they will open up on different places on your screen. So there's a fix for Wayland that will allow applications to occupy different parts of the screen when they're open for the first time. But that hasn't yet been 100% fixed and ready to go. So we've got some last minute issues with Wayland that need to be cleaned up. The other problem with Wayland is that on accessibility features, like a screen that you can type with online if you don't have a keyboard, and then other things that are oriented toward people who are disabled, those are not 100% fixed yet, 100% Wayland ready. But Wayland is definitely where things are going. In the next couple of years, in the next 2 years, all the major desktops will be 100% Wayland. It is coming, but it's going to be a while. Some desktops are already 100%, like Plasma is Wayland ready, but there are still features with Wayland that are incomplete. So we still have another couple years for the whole Wayland thing to be complete, if that makes any sense. Okay, yeah, Linux Mint Debian Edition 7 is beautiful. Marx is running it. He can tell us how he likes it. Oh, yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. There are some features and some things that you could do in X11 that you can't do in Wayland yet. And some of those features affect people who have disabilities, called alternative inputs, and features what's called accessibility features. Those are not in Wayland yet. And it's a problem. And those problems are going to have to be worked through in the next couple of years. Well, the problem with Xorg, Kitten Rules, is you've got people out there who want to run different monitors at different refresh rates. Xorg can't handle that very well. If you have 3 or 4 monitors and they're all at 60 hertz, it's no problem. But if you've got one monitor in portrait mode and you've got another monitor in landscape mode, and your monitor in portrait mode is 120 hertz and your monitor in landscape is 60, Xorg, it's a real pain in the ass to get that to work. That's been one of the shortcomings of Xorg, because Xorg was never designed to handle those issues. And you've got these people who want to do what's called mix and match monitors with different refresh rates. Xorg definitely does not like that. And as long as your monitors are the same resolution and the same refresh rate, you can have 4 of them. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, Xorg will handle that perfect. But if you've got 3 that are 60 hertz and you've got a 4th one that's 120 or 114, you're going to struggle with it. Just so we know, part of the move toward Wayland was to take care of these. Say, like you've got a laptop that's got a certain refresh rate on the display, and basically on a laptop you can't change it, and then you plug in another monitor that has a different refresh rate, different hardware refresh rate. Xorg has always had trouble with those, and one of the reasons why we're moving to Wayland is to take care of these display issues. But trust me, in NASA they've got like 6 monitors that are hooked up to Linux, but they're all the same refresh rate and they're the same resolution. Okay, NASA doesn't have a problem with X11. So let's get that straight right now. If your your hardware has to be designed around X11 if you want it to be successful. Just so we're clear on that. Okay, there is also another thing that Blazing brings up here. Is also another thing is quite weird in a way. I don't know why. Apparently major distros, I'm not sure if all, does not provide a GUI to touchpad 2-finger scroll distance. Well, I've never run into that issue, using a laptop, but you're talking about having a GUI to help you do that. I'm just wondering what distro or what desktop are you in now where you do have that ability? Are you on an Arch-based desktop that has that ability to configure your touchpad 2-finger scroll distance? I'm pretty sure that Linux Mint has that feature. Okay, so let's move on. Do we have any other questions or comments? Let's keep things going here. We don't want to get stuck too much, but I think in the next couple of years, we'll see Wayland come together and everything will be fixed and we'll be okay. Okay, because see, I've got this little sketch pad here, this Wacom, to do some drawing with whenever I feel like being artistic. And Linux Mint out of the box gives me complete control on how to set this up, which is amazing, really. Linux Mint has done a beautiful job. Let's take a look at that real quick while we're waiting for some other folks here to show up. Yeah, let's take a look. Yeah, I was surprised at what this could do out of the box. Map to the monitor. I don't want to touch that. Adjust your mouse settings. And then let's see, that's for the touchpad. I want to go to the tablet. Yeah, I'm very happy with the way this tablet has worked out. Let me minimize that. Yeah, I can change the pressure here. I can change the pen. It's right out of the box. It gives me complete control over this Wacom tablet, which I really haven't used that much. I bought it because I thought I was going to become a digital artist. And I just haven't had time to sit down and master it because I have so many other projects going on right now. Here's something that I'm doing today, just to give you an idea of what I'm doing all the time. People ask me, what do you do a lot of the time? Let's see, I'm trying to find it here. So I'm trying to look for the window. Yeah, here it is. I'm working on this today. This soundtrack. I want to mix this down. I have a lot of work to do on this mix down, but when I'm done, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be, yeah, it's going to be beautiful when it's done. So in case you haven't been to my YouTube channel, I have a bunch of audio and video work that I do, and that's what I do here in Linux. I also do some coding. We can talk about coding. I do a lot of bash scripting, and I use, I have different tools. My favorite, though, is, some people don't like it, but I use Visual Studio to do bash coding. And actually, I'm working on some coding here for System 76. I'll go ahead and share it. We'll take a look here real quick. I'm working on some code here in System 76, Cosmic, to do some things there automated. And this is for Cosmic. And what this does is it goes in and it determines what computer it's running on, and based on the computer that it's running on, it's going to do different things. And as you can see there, some computers we don't have a Bluetooth device, so we're just going to turn Bluetooth off completely. Yeah, so we don't keep getting error messages, and we want to change some fonts in the text editor, the terminal, and things like that. Okay. I tell you, you can do a lot with Bash. You'd be surprised what you can do with Bash. Yeah, let me see how many lines of code that is. It is quite a bit. That's about 1,756 lines of code. Yeah. Well, it's just a Bash script that I run, and also I kick it off and I tee the output to a file so that I can see what the heck is going on. Here's the kickoff file. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Yeah, let me turn that off. Yeah, so we're going to run, this is the file name. It's going to be popOS install transaction, and the host name is the computer that it runs on. So we're going to take the output of this script here called popOS 24.04, and we're going to put it there in the downloads with this name so we can look at the output of it, because there's a lot going on. Oh, it installs a bunch of fonts that I want because I do desktop publishing, and then here it installs all the applications that I'd like to have installed that are in the repository, and then there are certain ones that are not in the repository. See, we don't want VirtualBox on every computer. We only want it on 3 computers. And here's some packages that are not in the repository, like the Discord desktop client, Mission Control, the MyPaint. This is also how I install app images like Penta and Shotcut. I also need to put a new one in there for GIMP 3.06. Yeah, I don't want to bore everybody with that script. So any other questions here, or any comments while we're rolling? I don't want to be the one doing all the talking. You all come on in with some comments or questions. Let's get this thing going there. I'm just a facilitator. Well, know what I do. Here's how I do it. I do a fresh install right off the ISO. Okay. And then I install the NVIDIA drivers. Now, of course, with popOS, the NVIDIA drivers are wrapped in with the kernel, but usually it doesn't update. So you install off the ISO, you update the NVIDIA drivers in the kernel, and then you reboot, and then I run this script. What that script does is it reinstalls all the programs that I like to have on every computer, depending on what computer it's running on, one of the 7. Then it restores the dot files. Okay. And those are usually the configuration files for all the programs. Okay. And then it puts the user data back on. It restores the data files. And then at the end, it asked me to set up the printer and do a couple other things. And then I reboot, and then the computer is exactly the way it was before I wiped it and put the distro back on. Does that make any sense? Yeah, what that script does is it does all the stuff that you normally have to do manually. Sit there and pick, oh, I need to reinstall this program, that game, this game. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot one. I got to go back and put it in. Oh, I forgot to install VirtualBox and all of that stuff. It is very efficient, and it only takes about 20 minutes. And I've got that script so that at the very end it rings the bell a couple times to let you know that it's done at the very end, and it stops for you to enter in. Let's just take a look at the end. How about that? Instead of looking at the whole thing. Let's see here. Okay, so at the very end, it gives you an inventory of the hardware in your system. And it also gives you the health of your NVMe drives. Okay, and then it says get an entire inventory of the hardware to make sure that everything is there that should be there. And then it does this, it plays these sounds twice to give you an audio clue if you're in the other room, and then it tells you how many fonts are on the system. You expect 180, okay, and then it's going to prompt you for the root password, and then adjust any Wi-Fi, set up your printer, unplug your USB drive, and then it's going to reboot. And then you're done. When the system reboots, you're right back where you were. It's very efficient. Oh, I love using Bash. I wouldn't even think about Python. You know, Python is great if you have to manipulate arrays of numbers. For example, I wrote some Python scripts to calculate lottery pick numbers, but I'm perfectly comfortable with Bash to do what I need to do. Gosh, we've got 9 concurrent viewers. Come on in, introduce yourself. Ask a question. Let us know how you're doing today. It's friendly here. There's no question too big or too small that we can talk about. This is a judgment-free zone. Even if you've never used Linux before and you're curious about it, we can talk about that. Don't be shy. You know, it's scary, but that's the beauty of Linux Mint. Linux Mint has a software like Store. It's called the Software Manager. And you can get by in Linux Mint without ever having to use the terminal. That's what I did. It's kind of like cheating. It really is. Linux Mint is a great distro to start with. But the reason I use Linux Mint, and I'll show you why I use Linux Mint, why I've stayed with it all these years, because I keep trying. I keep trying Plasma. Okay, I'm going to share my entire screen, and you'll see why. Whoa, that's not how I wanted to share it. This is a customized version of Linux Mint. I call it my workstation edition because I like to have a lot of real estate. And see how things are organized here. It's got the Windows-like interface without the Windows problems. Okay. And also, I've got my, here's where I hang out in Discord, Linux Mint community, Debian, photography, music, more photography, music, movies and filmmaking, a small YouTube channel. How about System 76? You know, I'm experimenting with Cosmic, the new desktop, and Zorin. That's a new one there. Zorin is an excellent choice as well for newcomers. Zorin. Yeah, the Zorin unofficial server, but Zorin is another good desktop for newcomers. But what I like about Linux Mint is I've been using it for about 9 years. I always come back to it is because of the way I can configure the desktop and then the way I can restore everything. One of the things is in that bash script is to put all these, when you start Linux Mint and then you install programs, it puts things maybe in categories where you don't want it to be. And I have ways to fix that. So part of that script that I showed you, it puts everything back exactly the way I want it. I never have to mess with any of these. Everything is perfect. Yeah. So that's part of the reason why I use, because I do a lot of video and audio editing and I need a lot of space here. And I don't like to have to toggle back and forth between what's called workspaces. I like everything to be where I can see it, where I don't have to keep doing the toggling back and forth between the workspaces. I like everything on one desktop. Does that make any sense? Oh, well, yeah, when you use the terminal, you have superpower. And that's the first thing I noticed when I started using Linux over Windows. When I execute a command in a Linux window, it's like, it just, whereas Windows, it just kind of clogs along like a clog dancer, clinky like a turtle. And then when I execute when I copy and paste these commands in Linux, it's like, the other thing about Linux is the I/O is much faster than Windows. The I/O is like 4 times faster than NTFS. I get blazing speed. Yeah. Right. There's no security issue with NeoFetch, and I still use it. I still use NeoFetch. Yeah. I can run NeoFetch here for you real quick. It's not a security issue. It's no longer developed. And that happens. It's been forked into something now called it used to be Screen Fetch, and then it was NeoFetch, and then what is it now? What is it turned into there, Marks? What's the latest one? Yeah, let me close this. This is distracting. Fast Fetch, that's the new one, Fast Fetch. So what people will do is, because the source code is out there, people will fork it. So there used to be Screen Fetch and then NeoFetch and now Fast Fetch. But I continue to use this one out of habit. Okay. It should take us back, but it didn't. It should, yeah, there we go. Okay, kitten rules. We're all for that. Yeah. I don't want to say too much here. Yeah. Okay, I've never tried that one. Okay, well, oh, okay. Well, like I said, that's the beauty of open source software. Somebody takes an idea and they generate something new, and then eventually they get tired of maintaining it, because a lot of these developers do it for fun. They're not paid. Nobody ever paid anybody to do NeoFetch. And the same thing with this thing called INXI. Okay. I don't think the developer of INXI probably has been made more than $100. Okay. And so after a while, people get tired of updating it. Because see, the problem with NeoFetch is that when the hardware changes, you have to go in there and add additional code, okay, to pick up the new hardware. Like when the architecture of the motherboards change. Okay. So the thing is, after about 10 years, people just get tired. They said, man, I'm not getting paid to do this. I want to do something else, go on to something else. So they just don't maintain it anymore. So somebody else picks it up. That's how it works. Okay, fun fact, the NeoFetch dev retired from program, deleted his, and became a farmer. I believe it. I believe it. That's right. And the thing is, NeoFetch will no longer be in the next version, the next LTS of Ubuntu. Yeah, which will be 26.04 next year. Okay. NeoFetch will no longer be in the repository. Okay. But as long as it's there, I'm going to continue to use it until it's dropped, and then I'll use something else. Yeah. Okay. So what games do you play? Okay, Raphael Bird has a very interesting question. In the meanwhile, Netropolis, tell us some of the games you play in Linux, and then I'll show you some of the games I play in Linux Mint. How about that? So show and tell. Okay, so Raphael Bird asked a very important question. Hello, can you please tell me of some of the benefits of learning bash scripting in today's job world? Well, actually, it really depends on what level of job that you want. But let me give you an example. When I worked at Hewlett Packard, they were using bash scripting to run tests, to run to run tests on their computers. So that could have been an environment where being able to be an expert in bash scripting could have helped you get a job at Hewlett Packard in software test. Yeah. So there's a real world example. Yeah, because to get that job as a test engineer, you would have been required to know bash very well. And actually, some of my bash script is modeled after some of the test software at Hewlett Packard, because I worked at Hewlett Packard. A disclosure there on that. Okay, Call of Duty to take a break. Okay, so Raphael Bird, it's great to have you with us today. Welcome. Do you have any other questions? Please feel free to ask. Oh, come on. You don't want to do that blazing. You don't want to completely ditch the GUI. That's no fun. You can just go with i3 then. Just build your own Linux from scratch and don't even use a desktop. Just use i3. Okay. All right. So Raphael Bird, back to your question there. Would you like to ask another question? And good afternoon and welcome to the program. Let's take a look at my script again real quick. Let's take a look at that puppy, because it does a lot. Let's just read the preface here. Okay. It configures the detail of the OS by computer, fixes a few upstream issues, remove and install font sets, install additional applications, restore the user data or links to data, restores the desktop environment configuration, restore specific computer preferences, application configuration by computer. As remember, there are 7 computers and each one has different needs and applications. Update, post-update fixes, and then you clean up at the end. It does a cleanup. That's a lot of work. So see, there's 7 different computers here on the network. Yeah. Okay. So we're taking a look at that. And I forgot to close the screen behind it there, so that might have been confusing. I always forget to do that. Okay. Well, actually, you can use bash scripting to manipulate. Let me give you an example. You can develop a bash script to set up a RAID array. You can use a bash script to set up a system table. For example, that can be very useful in storage management. Now, some people will use Python for storage management, but you can also use bash. For example, let me just show you here in the script. I've got for some computers, I need to auto mount a internal NVMe. I need to add that in the file system table. And it's so easy. It's one line of bash to do that. Bash is good stuff. Here, let me just show you real quick. So for the 2 workstations with 3 NVMe drives, let me close that. Okay, for the 2 workstations with 3, we want to add a line to etc file system table to automate the backup drive so that it's auto-mounted every time you boot the system. Okay, we're just going to add a line, and that's going to be it. We want to make sure that device is called backup, so that makes it clear when you look at it in the file manager exactly what it is. And how about that? That one line does it. But you could literally use this to set up a RAID array or do many other things, for example, in bash. And here I'll show you the desktop again, the entire show. For example, every time we bring up the file manager, we need to, that always shows that device is backup. See there? But there's another backup as well. This is an external, this is a 4 terabyte external USB drive, but this is an internal for and see that the data is exactly the same. Yeah. Okay, so there we go. All right, so do we have any other, and that's true that you can cheat and you can use AI to help you make the scripts better. I use a tool to check the scripts to make sure I haven't accidentally deleted a line or caused a problem. And actually, it's called shell check. To make sure that I haven't, because sometimes you might inadvertently delete a line, cause a problem. Yeah. Okay, so we've got 6 concurrent viewers out there. Would anybody else like to come in and introduce yourself today? Marks, you've been kind of quiet. What's going on over there in West Virginia? Give us an update. Yeah, Metropolis, could you expand on that comment there? Making your bash scripts atomic is golden. So what I can do with those bash scripts, I can either keep them on an FTP server and I can bring them down, or I can just put them on that massive 4 terabyte USB drive and just move them, or I can put them on those backup drives and they're there when I need them to install a new operating system. So how is that going? That reminds me, I need to find a new web server here this next year. Okay, so atomic helps prevent the scripts from breaking. Okay, I just run shell check. Yeah, I do not use AI to help write scripts. Yeah, I'm 100% with you there, Marks, about I is no good now. That they are no longer whoops, I can't type 1 and 1. 1 and 1 was based out of Pennsylvania, and they were a great company, but they sold out to the Germans. And the thing is, when you're on 1 and 1 now, which is now linuxs, I don't know what, that's the most stupid name ever come up with. You're really on Amazon Web Services. So you're not even on their own servers anymore. They shut down their servers and they're on Amazon Web Services. Let me say that again, is on Amazon now. They don't even have their own servers anymore. Can you believe that? Yeah, Amazon Web Services is what I meant to say. Yeah. They don't even own their own hardware anymore. I'll bet you GoDaddy is also on AWS. Yeah. So what I need to do is I need to find a new FTP service and everything that's not on AWS. Well, the thing is, I have two domain names, and I may just park them. I really don't need I really don't need a web server anymore. And you know what I discovered? Here's a cheat. This is a secret. If you don't want to buy your own FTP, you can use Google Drive. You could just use Google Drive instead. Yeah. For example, if you want to put some scripts up on Google Drive that you can access from anywhere to do some different operations, and you don't want to pay for your own FTP server anymore, because all this stuff has gotten expensive. I remember when web hosting was like $10 a year, then it was $20 and $30, and now it's like $150 a year. Where you're with INOS, Marks, you know, my last annual contract was $142, and I'm sure when they give me the little email on my next year's contract, it's going to be $160, because what they keep doing, they keep raising the rates, and they used to give me a free domain name along with the one that I'm paying for, and they dropped that. Yeah. Because I have two domains, fabradio.com and RA17, and I'm never going to let those go. But what I may do is just park them in GoDaddy. Well, we've had a lot of good discussion here. I would love if some of the other folks who are just watching would come on in and jump in. Just introduce yourself. Let us know how things are going in your part of the world, wherever you are, what kind of a day you're having. Come on in. Well, I couldn't tell you about Telegram because I quit using Telegram a couple years ago. I did have a Telegram account, but I'm sure by now it's been deleted. My Telegram account name was Linux Advocate. Actually, that was the account name. That was my Telegram account, but I no longer have it active. So I'm sure after a few years, they have pruned it. Yeah. Anyway, if anybody ever wants to find me, my chat name on Discord, Element, Matrix, Mattermost, IRC. Well, anyway, you can find me there on those services. Oh yeah, Internet Relay Chat is still here. Let me show you a window. Let's see here. I know it's there somewhere. You know, it could be biased. It's not showing up. Here's Internet Relay Chat. I'm on this network called libera.chat. Okay, and then I'm on this other one called OFTC, Debian Offtopic, and #Linux Mint, and then here I am on Pop OS. So what I do is I primarily focus on two distros. Linux Mint is my daily driver where I do my development, my audio and video editing and things, and artistic work. But then in the background, I'm also focused on System 76 Cosmic Desktop, because I just kind of want to follow and see how that desktop develops. It's been written from the ground up. It doesn't use JavaScript or Python. It's a portable desktop because it's written in it's basically written in a C++ type language, so it executes extremely fast. Okay. And I'm just curious to see how that's going to work out. So I stay involved with Cosmic. But I don't spread myself out. I'm not a distro hopper where in the morning I'm on one distro, in the afternoon I'm on another one, and I don't change my avatar 3 or 4 times a day. Okay. I try not to. I just try to keep it steady, man. You know, some people will be on an Arch-based distro in the morning, and in the afternoon, they're back on Debian after an update failed. And I know some people love Arch, and I have pretty recent hardware, but Ubuntu does a very good job of providing a base and a good kernel, a reliable kernel. You know, I can trust when I turn well, this computer here never gets turned off, but the other ones do. I can trust when I turn those on to do something that we're not going to get some kind of a boot issue, or when I do an update and reboot, that it's not going to hang at the grub screen, that we're going to get some good work. We're going to get some work done. Yeah. But see, some people hop constantly between different different distros in Linux. Like I said, they'll be on Arch in the morning, Debian in the afternoon. They'll try another Arch. They'll try CachyOS in the morning, and then in the afternoon they'll be on another Arch-based, and then the next day they'll be back on Debian, Linux Mint again. Oh man, the Atari 800. I can't really speak about that. I never really had much experience with the Atari 800. Hey, speaking of old games, I'll show you all something here since you all been good enough to hang in here today and join us. Well, I don't know about that because I've never spent time there. Let's play. You know, we talked about games and gaming. I'll give you all some insight to my gaming. I like to play old school games. Okay. And when I say old school, I mean old. Old is in Windows 95 games. So almost any game written in Windows 95 will work in Windows XP. I like to play this game a lot. I know, Marks, you've probably seen it. You don't want to see it again. You all ready to go for a ride? So up in the upper right-hand corner here is the radar. Okay. And And that's the direction I need to be going. And here comes an enemy fighter. Oh man, hitting these things is hard. Oh. So there's two versions of Fury 3. There's the trial version, and then there's the full version. And of course, I have both. There we go. There's the trial version and the full version. But I like to play the trial version. It's just a little bit, they put a little bit more of a fun hook in there in the trial version. And then, of course, Microsoft Golf. And then you've got the classic pinball machine. And then I've got some music software in here that's, of course, this is abandonware. I mean, who even heard of the Microsoft Music Producer, right? Who's ever heard of it? The Microsoft put it on a 1996, 1 year, and then they abandoned it. They didn't develop it anymore. Okay. So I run a virtual machine to run XP. Okay, well, welcome, Donald. I see you came in while I was busy gaming, and I had this screen shared. Okay. All right. Hey, Donald, it's great to have you join us here today. But yeah, I play those old games. Like I said, any game that would run in Windows 95. As a matter of fact, here's the thing, is when I play Fury 3, I'm actually playing a piece of computer history because it was one of the first DirectX games. How about DirectX 1, version 1 with Windows 95? So I used to play it under NT, Windows NT. And then when Windows XP came along, I played it under XP. But here's the kicker. The game itself, Fury 3, was never designed to be played with a USB gamepad. You played it through a serial port, game stick, a flight stick controller on your sound card. And the beauty of the virtual machine is, don't ask me why or how, but I can actually play Fury 3 with the device the game was never designed to be controlled with. That is like super cool because I don't have that flight stick controller anymore. And the only other way to play Fury 3 is with a keyboard, and that's no fun. Okay. Well, Donald, welcome. Great to have you with us, Zorin 18. I've got Zorin 18 in the next room on the test computer, and later today I'm going to install it and give it a test drive. And I'm on the Zorin server on Discord as well. Well, now, Kitten's Rule asked about Doom. There's a version of Doom that you can play in Linux. It's almost exactly like it. Let me get you that information here real quick. You don't have to play it in an emulator. You can just play it right on Linux because there's an open source version of Doom that you can play in Linux. Give me just a second here to pull that up for you. Okay, I'll give you that information right now here on the screen. Be patient, it's coming up. Okay, if I can, here it is. Okay. Here's a list of these games. So you asked me about, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I know there's a Doom-like game that you can play in Linux. Yeah, it could be that one that I'm thinking of, Alien Arena. Might be the one. Yeah. Okay. See if I can jump back to visit with you all here so I don't lose track of everybody. Hello, Strawberry Kitten. Okay. Well, good afternoon, Strawberry Kitten. Tell us a little bit about you. Okay. Oh my goodness, Strawberry Kitten, you didn't need to retract your message. You're welcome here to make comments. You don't need to retract it. So now you're telling me I look like an off-brand version of Linus. Well, I'll take that as a compliment, but welcome to the group. We're here every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States, and that's going to be Eastern Time in the winter and EDT in the summer. It's the same time year round. Well, come on in there, Strawberry Kitten, and tell us a little bit about you. Where are you at? Okay, so Kitten Rules asked, what about Doom, though? Did you play it? No, I never played it, but I played it in Linux. I think it's Open Arena. But I never played the original Doom. I'm more into flight games, like the one that I just showed you. And I used to play for hours Flight Simulator. So I'm more into flight sim and flight games. Well, Strawberry Kitten, you're certainly welcome to join us anytime you like. There was no need to retract your comment. We're all good here. Well, it's about 1:13. I appreciate everybody who showed up today. If you like what you saw, please give it a thumbs up before you leave, before you check out. The Hotel California, you check in, but you never check out. And it's been a great hour here with everybody. Oh, well, I know some of those back in the days of the floppy disk, some of those operating systems and games. Oh, does anybody remember OS2? That came on like what, 28 floppies. That's right. And I used to love Flight Simulator. I used to play that on a 286 computer. I used to play that for hours. Remember when you would quit the OS and you would actually load the first Flight Simulator disk, you would boot off of it, then you would take that disk out and then type in FS for Flight Simulator. And it would load in memory. I used to play Flight Simulator. I can't tell you how many times I flew past the Sears Tower and the John Hancock building. Yeah, I used to like to fly between the antennas. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, Windows for work groups. And if you had one bad floppy, you were toast. Does anybody remember that crappy data program that used to run on Windows 3.11 for work groups called Access? And you would have all kinds of file corruption with that because there were problems with the locking, the data locking, and that would get corrupted so easy. Access would on Windows for Workgroups 3.11. I used to work with this financial company. We had to constantly back that file up because it would get corrupted. Yeah, because see, with databases, you can lock the file or you can lock the record, and sometimes there would be data collisions, and it would corrupt the entire database. Yeah. As a matter of fact, that's what I did for about a decade. I spent about a decade doing database programming because back then in the early 90s, actually the early 80s, companies didn't have the software they've got to choose from today. Like look at how advanced QuickBooks is. It didn't used to be that advanced. QuickBooks was just a simple. QuickBooks started out as like Microsoft Money, just a personal finance manager, like to keep your checking account balanced. Okay, so I would write these custom invoicing software and electronic data interface for these mid-sized businesses. For example, one of my projects was to write this database. It was to track people who were making too many returns for Toys R Us. Okay. Yeah, so Toys R Us didn't have their own software, so I wrote it. Yeah, to track people who were returning too many things. Loss prevention. I wrote that for their loss prevention department. Well, Donald, that's just the way it is because a lot of people just don't want to be bothered with installing an operating system. That's detailed in my excellent one of my videos. If you go to my YouTube channel called Linux is Not for Normies, and that kind of describes the problem. For some people, installing an operating system is too high of a bar for people to clear. And not only installing the operating system, but getting their data that they had on Windows over to Linux. Okay, like their Office files, their PowerPoint presentations, all of those things. And the thing is, for Linux, there really isn't a thing like QuickBooks for Linux. So for people like that, they've got to stay in what's called a dual boot environment. If I need to create an invoice in QuickBooks, I need to boot over or run QuickBooks in a virtual machine. Okay, there's another option, is to run some Windows software in a virtual machine. That's a very good option so that you don't have to keep rebooting back and forth, back and forth. You just open up a virtual machine. Right. Okay. So what is that comment there, J Marks? You said U.S. What? What is that? That term? Maybe you meant to type that in Internet Relay Chat because that's right. Some people use GNOME boxes and bottles and things like that for Office. Exactly. And same thing for QuickBooks and other programs. If you need to do an invoice real quick, you pop into a virtual machine, you do your invoice, you pop out. But see, you've still got to manage that data. You've still got to back up the QuickBook files. And the problem is Windows uses a different file system. So you've got to deal with two different file systems. You've got to come up with a strategy. And that's what I tell people who are new to Linux. I said, whatever you do before you even think about Linux, you need to make sure you're backing up your data. Yeah, you need to make sure you're backing up your data. And then if you move to Linux, but you're still in Windows, you still need, if you're changing things in Windows, like on a dual boot system, you need to be really careful with a dual boot system, because sometimes a Windows update will clobber the boot manager. Now we've got tools now to repair your boot manager. Say like Linux Mint comes with a tool now to repair your boot. It's called boot repair. Okay, but you have to be careful there. You have to have a strategy to keep your data backed up. Oh, we had a big discussion about AI. If you want to, you can go back and watch the one on this last Thursday. We had a big discussion about AI. Yeah, people don't see what's coming with AI. That's a whole nother discussion. Well, hello there, Art Edwards. Great to have you. I know you're a newcomer. Welcome. We'll be here every Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern time zone. So how are you doing today? I see you've got the number 717, 7 and 17. Those are my lucky numbers. How are you? Okay, that's an excellent resource there, Donald, that you brought up to help people here. And that's what we do. We help each other, and we're learning together. We're learning together. Oh, yeah, man. If you're in IT and you're trying to find a job right now, you're in a difficult position. But the whole thing about AI, it's going to take many other jobs: accounting, legal clerks. You know, in these prestigious law firms, each top partner has about 5 legal clerks that do all the research into case histories and precedents and all of that. Pretty soon, you're just going to be able to type in. AI will give you an answer that normally takes 5 legal clerks a long time to go back and research all the cases, the legal cases. How about tax preparation? Boy, that's a place where AI can really be a big benefit. How about all these people who prepare taxes every year? Boy, their jobs are going to be. How soon do you think H&R Block is going to get rid of people? You know, these big companies, they want to get rid of people. Yeah, think about that. How AI can go through and figure out all the different tax scenarios. And that, in case you've never seen the tax law book, it's about this thick. Okay, tax law. That's an excellent application for AI as tax preparation, because the U.S. tax code is the most difficult in the world. Yeah. Okay, so I'd like to kind of close it down here, because what we like to do is to try to limit it to about an hour and a half. And I see we have 9 concurrent watchers out there, and I don't like to shut it down when we have this many people. But let's go ahead and get the last of our questions and comments in so we can have a graceful shutdown here of the stream and say our goodbyes and our fond wishes. And we'll definitely see you next week at this same time, 3 p.m. Okay, and that's going to be EST/EDT. It's always going to be 3 p. Not 3 a.m. Always 3 p.m. Sunday. Yeah, it's so confusing when we hopscotch back and forth between these time zones, but it's always going to be, just think of it as Eastern time. Always 3 p.m. This is our new time. I think it's going to work out great. So thank you, Donald and Art. This is our new time. I think it's going to work out great. So thank you, Donald and Art, and the other new folks at Netropolis, and welcome back folks at Netropolis, and welcome back Kitten Rules, and also welcome there Strawberry Kitten and Andreas and Raphael. You were new today. Thank you for joining us. I can't do that anymore. I need to get my sleep. In my older age, I've discovered that proper sleep is very important for mental health. And I cannot do that. And I can't stay up on a video call until 4:30 in the morning anymore. Video chat. I can't do that. Well, thank you, Donald, for joining us today. Is there anybody else who'd like to make a comment or have a question before we close the stream today? Okay, because we've been on the air for 1:27. We'd like to keep it to 1:30. Okay. Yeah, but I understand, Donald, but I found that naps are just not the same. It's not the same. And I have a special mattress in the bedroom. And in the wintertime, I have a cocoon system of blankets, of weighted blankets. Weighted blankets really help my sleep. And I'm 66, and I have discovered, I discovered it actually, I'm trying to think of the right word, through misfortune, that a good night's sleep, 7 hours of good sleep is really important to keeping a level mental situation. Naps just don't cut it, at least a level mental situation. Naps just don't cut it, at least for me. It varies from person to person. Well, thank you so much, Donald. And by their Kitten Rules, and I'm going to say goodbye. And Marks, thank you for being our co-host today. It's appreciated. You're always here for us, and that is appreciated. Marks there in West Virginia. Yeah, Marks Cox 8370. I think you can change that there, Marks. You can change your nick on YouTube. You can change it. I've changed mine several times. Okay, where it's KPTAMC now. Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody, and have a great week. I'm hoping to see you all again next Sunday at 3 o'clock. Goodbye, everybody, from beautiful Kingsport, Tennessee, here in the United States. Goodbye.